the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Small Business.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. J'apprécie énormément cette opportunité de discuter de la motion de mon estimable collègue de Calgary-Nose Hill. Je commencerai par dire, par contre, que le travail en comité est absolument essentiel au bon fonctionnement de notre système parlementaire et de notre démocratie. Alors que la session parlementaire touchait à sa fin, j'ai pu participer au comité des finances pendant l'étude du dernier budget du 42e Parlement. J'ai également siégé en tant que membre du comité de la condition féminine, où nous avons travaillé très fort sur l'adoption de plusieurs rapports extrêmement importants. Je crois fermement dans le rôle des comités parlementaires et je crois aussi que la motion devant nous traite un sujet qui mérite l'attention du comité de la santé. Cependant, je dois vous avouer avoir plusieurs craintes et réserves concernant les détails de cette motion que je pourrais presque qualifier d'omnibus au vu de ses 28 clauses. En tant que secrétaire parlementaire de la ministre de la Petite Entreprise, de la promotion des exportations et du commerce international, je me fais un devoir de regarder toute proposition, toute motion, y compris la motion devant nous aujourd'hui, du point de vue de nos entrepreneurs. Ça veut dire à la lumière de nos PME. As the members here know, the motion lists 16 areas of study within 28 different clauses. As Parliamentary Secretary for the Minister of Small Business, Export Promotion and International Trade, I will focus on the areas of the motion that I believe will impact our Canadian businesses, as well as the areas of international procurement. The motion proposes to study the availability of paid sick leave to those in quarantine and voluntary isolation. I believe this is an absolutely critical aspect of our government's response to COVID-19. We all know how important it is to continue to keep our businesses open and running while protecting the health and safety of one another. And we know that the balance between these two is certainly a hard one to manage. The thinking behind the government's proposal with respect to paid sick leave is rooted in the belief that nobody should have to choose between staying home because they have symptoms of COVID-19 and being able to pay for groceries or for rent. That is why we introduced Bill C-4, which included the Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit in order to provide $500 a week for up to 2 weeks with Canadians who were either experiencing COVID-19 symptoms, were in self-isolation because they had COVID-19, or have underlying conditions that would make them more susceptible to the virus. As we all know, the bill received the unanimous support of this House, and I believe it also passed royal assent within days, within 3 days, actually. This is an extremely good example of the speed and efficiency that is possible when we all work together, Mr. Speaker. The sick leave benefits that the motion proposes to study in committee fulfills the Government of Canada's commitment under the Safe Restart Agreement with provinces and territories. Canadians have been able to apply already now for the benefit since October 5th. And as of this past Monday, October 12th, Canadians who are not eligible for employment insurance have been able to apply for the Canada Recovery Benefit. We know that right now our business owners can't afford to pay for new benefits. We also know that Canadians were asking for this support, Mr. Speaker, and it was up to our government to respond. We will continue to respond to the needs of the Canadians throughout this pandemic. Pour reprendre cet aspect de la motion du côté de l'employeur, nous savons que nos travailleurs et nos entreprises font face à énormément d'incertitudes en ce moment. Les revenus sont en baisse et nos propriétaires d'entreprises ne peuvent pas se permettre d'offrir des bénéfices supplémentaires, même s'ils le souhaitaient. La prestation canadienne de maladie pour la relance économique est donc là pour les employés qui sont incapables de travailler parce qu'ils sont malades. Cette prestation de 500 $ par semaine pour 2 semaines n'est pas juste un soutien pour nos travailleurs, c'est également essentiel pour nos entreprises. Nous avons tous vu les histoires d'écoles, de bureaux, d'usines forcées de fermer suite à des éclosions du virus. Grâce à cette prestation, les employeurs protègent leurs équipes et ne doivent pas non plus faire face à la décision impossible de savoir si un de leurs employés est assez malade pour ne pas venir au travail. Le gouvernement fédéral répond présent et prend en charge 2 semaines de congés payés, une première au Canada. Ce programme offre une solution gagnant-gagnant pour nos PME et nos travailleurs, tout en limitant la transmission du virus dans nos communautés. I have to be honest, it is not clear on the basis of the motion before this House what aspect of paid sick leave is being proposed for study. The motion refers to availability of sick leave, but as this House knows, this benefit has already been available to hard-working Canadians for 2 weeks now. It's therefore perhaps a bit late to study whether or not this measure should go forward. And as I've explained, I believe this program to be absolutely critical. And I would assume on the basis of the fact that the bill in which this measure was included was passed unanimously by this House, that every member of the House agrees with that. If the motion is proposing to study how well the benefit is working, with only 2 weeks of usage, I would suggest that it is perhaps premature to study its effects at this time. It might be more useful to study this issue independently in a standalone study once a longer period of usage exists and more data can be evaluated by committee members. Let me now turn to another aspect of the motion, which touches on international procurement, including the proposal in the motion to study the procurement of vaccines. While I understand the spirit of what is being proposed here, of course, when you read the fine print of this motion, Mr. Speaker, included therein is a requirement to disclose all documents concerning the purchase of these life-saving drugs. The motion would therefore effectively make us hand over details of our negotiating positions and considerations for deals that are not even yet complete. I cannot emphasize enough how this would jeopardize our ability to compete and procure for what Canadians need in order to survive this pandemic. If other countries find out the good prices that Canada was successful in negotiating with suppliers, they could try to buy the order out from under us. Let me detail this a little bit further. Pour ce qui est de la procuration de vaccins à l'international, nous pourrions être forcés de révéler les conditions de prix et de vente que nous avons obtenues. Ceci nous exposerait à 2 problèmes potentiels très sérieux. Premièrement, nous serons à risque qu'un autre pays, connaissant nos conditions, décide de surenchérir notre offre pour détourner notre commande. Et deuxièmement, c'est une question de crédibilité du gouvernement canadien vis-à-vis de nos fournisseurs. La dernière chose, Monsieur le Président, dont nous avons besoin en ce moment est que les sociétés qui nous fournissent décident que le Canada n'est pas un partenaire fiable et qu'ils préféreraient conclure un accord dans une autre juridiction qui ne les oblige pas à révéler les détails en rapport avec leurs conditions. C'est un vrai risque, Monsieur le Président. Et nous savons qu'il y a un très grand nombre d'autres clients potentiels qui cherchent à se procurer ces mêmes vaccins. The last thing I believe we want to do in this House is to endanger hard-fought procurement deals that will ensure that Canada has the best possible set of vaccine supply contracts. We need companies to feel confident that the Canadian government will remain a reliable partner and not look to publish reams of sensitive information regarding the company's pricing, conditions, or scheduling. We know that there are real risks in this ultra-competitive bidding environment, Mr. Speaker. It is a global pandemic impacting countries all over the world. The competition, therefore, on the international stage is incredibly fierce. We must continue to be competitive in our bids. We must continue to be a country that vaccine suppliers wish to partner with. And our priority must continue to be to ensure that Canada has access to vaccines against COVID-19. Mr. Speaker, these are just a few of the problematic issues I see in this very large motion before us. I therefore cannot support this motion as is currently written, and Canadians, Mr. Speaker, cannot afford to have us jeopardize our ability to procure a vaccine to COVID-19, period. Thank you.
Questions and comments? Questions et commentaires. The honourable member for Kenora.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my colleague across the way for the speech and her comments on this matter. I think that Canadians have been asking a lot of questions about the government's handling of the pandemic, about rapid testing, about the management of PPE, and many different aspects. So I would like to ask my colleague if she believes that this is warranted of a review of the government's response to COVID-19, and if that is the case, Madam Speaker, why the Liberals are presumably allowing politics to get in the way of their supporting this motion. Thank you.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was in the House earlier today when the Minister of Health indicated that she would be open to negotiating with the Conservative members on how we could ensure that this motion does fulfill the request for responses to certain questions, whether it be on PPE or rapid testing. But as I mentioned in my lengthy speech just now, there are serious problems with this motion which make it impossible for our government to move forward as proposed.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for Hamilton Centre.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Now, just to recap, the Speaker did a phenomenal job presenting reasons why she couldn't support this motion from her perspective, and I'll share from mine through you, Madam Speaker, some of the problems that are still outstanding with her rationale. Madam Speaker, you'll recall that at the outset of COVID, there was a drastic mishandling of the National Emergency Stockpile. We asked the Minister of Procurement, who could have been responsible if it was their responsibility. They said no, it was the Minister of Health. So then we asked the Minister of Health. The Minister of Health, of course, would not take responsibility for the fact that this government threw out millions of critical PPEs on the eve of a pandemic and still hasn't adequately accounted for that decision. Through you, Madam Speaker, to the member opposite. Does the member opposite not believe that their government has a role and responsibility in ensuring that the critical protective personal equipment is provided to Canadians in a way that will help offset perhaps what could be a third wave coming down in the future?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Procuring the necessary PPE for Canadians is an absolute priority of this government. We did transfer $19 billion to the provinces in part in order to ensure that they could procure and have access to the necessary PPE. And with respect to my honourable colleague's question as to why a very specific issue cannot be studied, I would suggest that what we have before us is a 28-clause motion with 16 areas of study. Perhaps he could propose an area of study specific to what he is looking for, so that we can answer that specific question, Madam Speaker.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Member, l'Honorable Député de Lac-Saint-Louis.
Madame la Présidente, ma collègue a soulevé un très bon point auquel je n'avais pas pensé moi-même, c'est que les données, les informations requises dans certains cas pourraient miner la position de négociation du gouvernement face à des fabricants de vaccins. Ça me fait penser que lorsqu'on rédige ces motions, et celle-ci a 28 clauses apparemment, lorsqu'on rédige ces motions, il faut vraiment réfléchir à ce à quoi on demande pour pouvoir mettre quelque chose dans la vitrine là, qui ne vient pas en danger les intérêts du pays, Madame la Présidente.
La secrétaire parlementaire.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Je remercie mon collègue. Évidemment, c'est ce qui me préoccupe en ce moment. Nous savons qu'il y a énormément de clients sur le marché international qui essayent de se procurer des vaccins. Et si le Canada mine sa crédibilité, si le Canada commence à divulguer des informations confidentielles ou sensibles des compagnies, ces fournisseurs-là ne vont pas vouloir faire affaire avec le Canada, Madame la Présidente. Il faut s'assurer que nous puissions procurer des vaccins contre la COVID-19 pour les Canadiens.
Honorable député de Longueuil-Saint-Hubert.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Je remercie ma collègue de son discours. Je remarque que, comme tout le monde d'ailleurs, elle est très concernée, très inquiète par rapport à la santé des Canadiens pour les mois qui viennent. Par contre, là, ce qu'on entend, c'est que potentiellement, le gouvernement pourrait faire de cette motion, encore une fois, un vote de confiance et potentiellement envoyer le Canada en élection. Là, on apprend aujourd'hui qu'il y a plus de cas au Québec, plus de décès. Est-ce que mon honorable collègue ne trouve pas que c'est un peu irresponsable en cette période de pandémie d'envoyer le Canada en élection?
L'honorable secrétaire parlementaire.
Je pense qu'il n'y a personne qui veut des élections, Madame la Présidente. On veut tous travailler en Chambre pour pouvoir avancer les mesures qui vont pouvoir aider les Canadiens et les Canadiennes. Nous avons d'ailleurs plusieurs projets de loi qui sont en attente et nous voulons passer ces lois-là en Chambre. Alors, je suis tout à fait d'accord avec mon collègue. Ce n'est pas le temps pour les élections.
Reprise du